Thank you. Wow. I don't want to stumble. Imagine the show if I did. Okay, let's talk a little bit about mythology, shall we? Mythology is nothing but extinct religion. As religion, it tries to perhaps answer the questions that science didn't quite have an answer for yet. Now, across many different mythologies and different civilizations, we can find patterns. These patterns, words, symbols, similar characters, similar stories, and similar teachings, perhaps about love, journeys, etc., those are what Carl Jung defined as an archetype. Now, he identified 12 universal archetypes. There are many sub-archetypes, but he identified 12 of them. And then, Joseph Campbell later develops them in his work, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. So he kind of quotes different archetypes in different mythologies. Now, the feminine aspects of these archetypes need to be explored. Those of us who grew up in the Western world, who are familiar with the Abrahamic religions, perhaps, only are familiar with one whole archetype, which is the mother. And I think every woman here knows that she's one woman. Oh, I got lost. I think every woman here knows that she is not just one woman. Right? I hope so. The ancient mythologies do give a more accurate representation of the feminine psyche. So my aim today, because I don't have a lot of time to give you a lot of information, so my only aim today is to hopefully get you interested enough in this archetype so that you go and search for these stories on your own. So, all right, before getting into them, the first archetype, well, the origin of all the archetypes, as far as history can trace back, goes to the Sumerian civilization. And the Sumerians worshipped the goddess Inanna. Now, she later evolves into many different other archetypes. So she has an amazing story. She has many amazing stories, but she has one particular story in which she goes through 7 gates of hell, and then she comes back all rebirth, right? And we find that across many different mythologies, such as, for example, the story of Persephone. She gets abducted by Hades. We also have the warrior archetype. This is Sekhmet in Egyptian mythology. She is sent to Earth by Ra to kill all of his enemies. He actually gets so bloodthirsty. Now, Inanna is the first, like, where it all originates. All the archetypes originate from Inanna, who is the first goddess. She comes from the Sumerian mythology, Sumerian civilization, and she's later worshipped as Ishtar. I was telling you guys about the journey that she goes through. She goes through 7 gates of hell, so that she can battle her sister, which is actually her shadow self, and come back all revealed. Now, this story of death and resurrection is quite famous across different mythologies, and we can find that as well with the story of Persephone and Hades. Her abduction actually leads to the seasons, right? And we women are cyclical beings. Okay, the warrior archetype. This is Sekhmet in Egyptian mythology. She's pretty badass. She is sent to Earth by Ra and starts killing his enemies, but then she gets so bloodthirsty that she starts killing absolutely everyone, and they have to get her drunk so that she stops killing people. And then we have Kali, the destroyer in Hinduism. Now, she looks absolutely horrifying in there, but she actually stands for justice and for compassion, and she kills the demons of fear and all of these, negative feelings. Pele in Polynesian mythology is responsible for the eruption of volcanoes. Now, we're all, I think the majority of us, familiar with the archetypes of love and beauty, such as Aphrodite, slash Venus, Oshun in Yoruba mythology, Hathor in Egyptian mythology. That is supposed to be Freya in Norse mythology. These are archetypes that are very much in touch with their bodies and their sensualities and their deepest desires. Now, almost any word you can think of has an archetype and has a story in some of these civilizations. You name it. You know, there's the arts, there are queens, there are princesses, absolutely everything you can think of. Now, the beauty of these archetypes is that they are not perfect. They are integrated. So, for example, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and justice, who's supposed to be very just, is quite unfair by punishing Medusa and turning her into a monster as a punishment for being raped in her temple. Hera, for example, who's the goddess of women and family, she's supposed to be really kind to women. She's pretty horrible and torments absolutely every woman that Zeus falls in love with, which is everyone. So, yes, they have this polarity in them. Now, a big question is, why should we rediscover these archetypes? Well, the first thing, as a way of integration for ourselves, as a way to get to know ourselves better. Secondly, I am seeing a pattern in the modern entertainment industry in which there's a lot of remakes. We grab a male franchise and then we just throw a woman in there and we call that a story. Now, you may like these films, but I personally think it is a little patronizing, almost as if saying that we don't have good enough stories of our own and that we need to copy other people's stories. I understand where this comes from. This all comes from a very human desire, a yearning to be heard, to be seen. All of the previous archetypes I just mentioned, they even want to be worshipped. I get it. But if we go out there and rediscover these stories and learn them, we will really understand that there is absolutely zero. It would be out of the question to do something so basic such as bad man, bad woman. It's beyond us. It really is. So my invitation here for everyone, if you are a woman who feels underrepresented in media today, it starts with you. It starts with every single one of us to learn these stories and start integrating them and start making them viral. If you're a guy, I think these stories will help you probably navigate women better, not necessarily understand them. Understanding that, you know, women are not to be understood, they are to be witnessed. These are a few of my recommendations if you are interested. Now, if I am absolutely brutally honest with all of you, I haven't finished any of those books. But they have gotten me interested enough to go and search for these stories and fall in love with a lot of them. And I hope they do the same for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Rosario. Have we got any questions about mythology? Yes. So the question is, what is your favorite mythological woman?
I have a little fascination with Inanna, which I just mentioned, but then I also have, well, I don't know, many of them, but Lilith. So she's supposed to be the first woman, which is actually the shadow part of Eve. Look up for that story, it's quite interesting. So yeah, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Yes.
Do you think that the ancient mythology reflects femininity and this modern, it is based in the celebration of femininity or more?
So the question is, do you believe that these sort of myths and older tales resemble femininity, Whereas on the other hand, come on, I'm a guy, I don't say that word often. Resemble femininity. Whereas on the other hand, the more modern stories are less about that. Is that what you feel? The older stuff represents femininity and the newer ones?
The ancient mythologies represent humanity better, I think. As if they all, we really look back at them, they all have, different aspects of the self. I focused on the feminine ones, but of course, all these Jungian archetypes, they're universal. So I just focused on the feminine aspects of those. So I do think that they're more, if we compare it to Abrahamic religions, they're more similar to us. Yeah, they're more representative of our human psyche. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Yes, let's thank you. What is the most badass thing that a woman in mythology has ever done?
Kali killed, I don't know, many of them, but Kali killed a bunch of demons, which were basically fears. And in her killing of these demons, she actually celebrates them dancing. And then by dancing, she starts ruining the world. And so Shiva, her consort, basically comes and stands under her to basically hold space for her so that she comes back into her consciousness. But she is actually battling demons. So that's pretty cool. But there are a gazillion of others. Like that's the first one that popped in my head, but there are many others. Thank you.
All right, we had no questions been canceled. Cancel culture, people. Yes. All right, yeah, very good question. Have there been any movies where men have been recast to create stories that are traditionally for women? So a bit like the Ghostbusters, and Ocean's 8. Are there anything that's like switching the genders?
No, I haven't seen them. I don't think that happens. That with twins. Huh? Okay, that's interesting. It's not very common though when that happens, is it? Because you guys make really cool modern stories, and that has to be respected. That's pretty awesome. I personally just don't think that it is in our role to just put a woman in there. It would be really, really basic when we have such incredible stories. Seriously. Yeah.
Compared to mythology, that would be known as a myth take. Yeah, we have another question. They love to hate it. Can you repeat that? So the question is, what would happen or would have happened if Zeus was female?
Maybe an nymphomaniac.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Any final question for Rosario? No, that's it. So everyone give her a final round of applause. You've been fantastic.